Hello everyone, it's Louisa Deasey here. Now this is a bit of an experiment. I was going to do this in my memoir group, but I know a few of you aren't in there, so I just want to make it a bit more accessible, and this way I can also download it and share it and post the link, and it's just a little bit more accessible. I wanted as many people as possible to be able to come. What a time to be alive. I can see that someone's tuned in, so that's great. I might see if I can tag someone that was just asking me for the link. Nope, I can't tag anyone. Okay, I'm just going to jump right in and start this workshop. And then if you come in later, you can take some information as it comes. And then you can also watch the replay. So I've just been preparing this in the last day because a couple of really awesome creative people I know have done some free workshops, which has really inspired and uplifted a lot of us who are in lockdown or self-isolation or quarantine and looking for ways to stay productive and busy and do meaningful things during this really interesting time in history. And I've just noticed that I forgot the why on the name of this workshop. Anyway, I'm a bit nervous, but who cares? So if you don't know me, my name's Louisa Deasey. I'm an author. I've written 2 memoirs published traditionally, Love and Other U-Turns and A Letter from Paris. And I also have created a number of memoir writing courses. I have a journaling course, and I also have a 90-day memoir course, which teaches you the structure and the craft to get your memoir down in 3 months. And so what I wanted to help you or share with you today is some strategies and some tools to really use this time to start writing your memoir, or to start writing shorter pieces, or even start keeping a journal if you've never done that before. So this is for you whether you've written a memoir and you want to get published. It's for you if you haven't started your memoir yet. It's for you if you're a butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker. Everyone has a fascinating story right now. This is a really incredible time in history, and I really believe in the power of story, and I really think that records of this experience are going to be so valuable, and already are very valuable. Plus, we're seeking connection more than ever. The internet is everything, and this is a unique opportunity for you if you are writing or wanting to write a memoir, or wanting to publish a memoir, or wanting to get some smaller pieces published, or to build your platform, or just connect to others through personal story. Okay, so I've prepared this as a presentation, so I'm just going to try and figure out if I can share my screen to start. Okay, let's see if I can share my screen. Because I've got, okay, how do I share my screen? I just made a whole heap of slides for you all. Okay, if I can't do it, maybe I can't do it from a computer. Okay, I'll just have to go through the slides and share it through talking. Okay, I don't want to, this is super weird. Okay, well, that was a bit of a waste creating all those slides. I'll just have to record them another time. But the information I can still share with you through talking. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so I am just going to read from the slides. Okay, so memoir writing workshop. Who this is for? This is for everyone, basically. I started off creating this for those of you who have written a memoir, who've done my memoir writing courses, who are trying to build your platform and trying to get essays published. But then I started thinking about story at the moment and how significant this time is in history. And this is for everyone. Like I said, butchers, bakers, candlestick makers, everyone has a fascinating story right now. So what we're going to cover, first of all, I'm going to go through why your memoir matters right now more than ever. Secondly, I'm going to go through universal themes and the hook with memoir. Thirdly, I'm going to cover questions you can use to prompt your writing. Fourth, then I'm going to go through essays and articles and where to send your work. Then after that, I'm going to cover building your platform mindfully at this time. Then after that, I'm going to cover keeping a diary, some questions and answers. And if you have any questions, post them. I can see right now if anyone's posted a question, and I'll check. And lastly, I'll just sum up and give you some additional steps and places to go for more resources. Okay, so, I feel so bad that I can see my slides and you can't see them. Anyway, okay, why your memoir matters now. So at the moment, everything is universal. You know, I don't think I've ever lived through a time when so many people across the globe have been affected by the same thing. And this really connects us. This makes our story more interconnected in so many ways to the rest of the world. We're all seeking stories and connection right now. So, you know, we're all online. A lot of us have been locked down. You know, some of my friends in Paris have been locked down since, I think it was a week ago, haven't left their apartments. We're seeking ways to connect. It's a global situation that affects everyone in really different ways. It's very historically significant. And lastly, memoir matters now because it helps you with mindfulness. It helps you as an emotional self-care tool, and it's going to help you with reflection and objectivity on your place in history right now, your place in the world, your domestic life, everything. It's really, really helpful. There's so many studies on writing, personal writing, for example, particularly. I shared one study a couple of weeks ago in my private Facebook group about how they gave patients in a hospital, I think they were arthritis and diabetes patients, an exercise. Some of the people were told to write about neutral experiences, so things that weren't that painful or hard to think about, and they gave another group the task of writing about their most traumatic or most significant or stressful experiences in their lives. And the patients who wrote about the most significant experiences in their lives had better long-term health outcomes. They had pain relief. It had so many benefits writing about their personal stories. And if you think about it, you know, writing, it's such a therapeutic tool. It's really, really helpful. It calms us down. And it helps us to gain that objectivity on what's going on in our life. And there's a lot of people anxious right now, rightfully so. Memoir is really, really, really important right now. It's always been important. I've always believed it's important, but this is why it's more important than ever. Okay, so I'll start with that first reason that I just mentioned, that memoir matters now more than ever, universal themes. So a universal theme, if you've read any of my blogs, you know how I describe universal themes, and they're really important to memoir, because a universal theme is why your personal story, it's the reason why a memoir is significant to a wide range of people. So if you don't have a universal theme in your memoir, it's very unlikely that anyone other than your parents or your siblings or your close family is going to want to read it. And at the moment, we all have a universal theme in our story. So a universal theme is something that a theme or a topic that can apply to anyone regardless of geographic location, socioeconomic background, geographic location, and all those other things that sort of separate us societally. So it's all those things. If you're trying to think of a universal theme, it's stories that you see on the 6 o'clock news. So it's, you know, famine, travel, relocation, health, survival, love, grief, death. I can't think of any aspect of life that hasn't been touched by what's happening right now with the corona pandemic. So basically, it's a universal theme for everyone. So straight away, your story is universally significant and universally applies to a huge amount of people across the globe. So this is one of those essential things that every memoir needs, is a universal theme. And not that it's a blessing to be going through this right now, but straight away you've been given a universal theme here in your personal life story that's going to tie into a lot of people in the future. Right now, it's relatable to people across the globe. It's a global pandemic. Okay, so that's universal themes. So the other reason that Memoir matters now is we're seeking stories and connection. There's a lot of people, of course, in their homes that can't go out except for essential supplies, or even a lot of people in hospital, a lot of people working or who've lost their jobs, that suddenly the only way that we can connect at the moment is through the internet. And this presents a unique opportunity for you if you want to share your story, and if you're seeking other stories, and if you're seeking like-minded people to connect with, and if you're seeking that connection. Yes, it's not ideal. We can't see each other face to face and we can't hug each other. I think they just announced in Victoria that even funerals aren't, people can't have funerals now. This is such a significant time, but we do have the benefit of the internet, which is incredible. And this poses a unique opportunity for those of us wanting to share our story, wanting to read someone else's story, wanting to know what's going on with our friends, our family overseas. And so we're all seeking personal stories, connection, information about how everyone's getting through this. So it's a unique opportunity for Memoir right now. The other thing which I touched on, which is why Memoir matters right now, is because whether or not you're a butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker, everyone has an interesting story to share right now. I remember people talking about World War II and how, I mean, I know that I've read a lot of memoirs and true stories about World War II because it was such a fascinating and unprecedented time in global history. And everyone had these interesting stories. Well, I think that that's also happening now because, well, I believe this is happening now. In the last week, I've connected with people that I never, ever would have spoken to before because we are all, forced to consider our survival in a whole new way. My neighbours and I have formed a WhatsApp group. We've all been sharing resources and looking out for each other. People are doing things that they've been putting off for 10 years to connect with their community or to everyone's changing the way that they operate very, very quickly. And a lot of this is because we have to. So this means that it doesn't matter who you are, if you're a writer or not, your story is really globally interesting, significant, and important. So your memoir matters right now. The other reason, which I also touched on, is that memoir is a very, very, very therapeutic tool for getting through anxiety. So there's a lot of anxious people right now, and the reason we're anxious is because we don't know what's going to happen. Things are changing so much from one day to the next, from 1 hour to the next. Our government keeps announcing different things every day. So how you can channel that into your memoir and feeling better about how everything's going is to start keeping a record. It really helps you to process things when you start keeping a record, whether that's in your diary or on Facebook as a status update. I've been noticing some of my friends in different countries are going, day 2 lockdown, what I did today, or day 3, self-isolation, this is what I've accomplished today, or this cheered me up. This sort of thing, it's helping people, and it's giving other people strategies and tools to do as well. So memoir is a really psychotherapeutic tool to have, and whether or not you want to be published or write a book or just keep a diary or a list of how this is affecting you, I just think it's such a beneficial thing to do right now for your mental health, for your emotional health, and for your physical health, because I mentioned that study into memoir that it actually even helps with pain relief and our health, long-term health. Okay, so that's why memoir matters right now. I'm so sorry you can't see my PowerPoint presentation because I made it look really nice. Okay, so the importance of universal themes. I think I've sort of covered quite a lot of that, but I'll just reiterate. Universal themes are super, super crucial to memoir. A universal theme is the reason someone will read a memoir over, thanks Lainey. Universal themes are, the difference between a story that people want to read and something that you would just give to, one person in your immediate circle. Universal themes make a story more applicable, more readable, more interesting to a wider range of people. And right now we have a global pandemic, which is a pretty big universal theme. That's health. It's health, it's survival, it's life or death. Okay, so moving on to the hook, which is what I'm most excited about. So every memoir needs a hook. If you want to get published, your memoir needs a strong hook. If you want to share a story, if you notice those storytellers that are really engaging, if you notice, what makes you stop and pay attention when someone starts to tell your story, it's usually if it has a really strong hook. Now, a hook is something very unusual, unprecedented. I keep saying that word, which was on the news last night about 50 billion times. But this is a hook. A hook is something unprecedented. A hook is a collection of contrasts, specific and sometimes shocking change. And we're all living through unique, different hooks in our story right now. So it's those contrasts, and it's like a sudden, very significant change, and it involves details that are sort of unexpected. And there's so many unexpected elements of this global pandemic to everyone right now. But I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about how you're going to use this hook for your own writing in a moment. But that's just to summarize what a hook is. And a hook is really what makes people, open up and pay attention to your story, because it's very unique and usually surprising or shocking. So, for example, going into the hook a little bit more, right now, this is why I said that this workshop applies to you if you're a butcher, a baker, or a candlestick maker. I'll stop singing that song soon. So some examples of hooks right now. I mean, they just announced on the news that funerals and weddings, we can't have them in Victoria anymore because they're large gatherings of people and there's face-to-face contact, that sort of thing. So in your personal story, I mean, I can't even imagine. We actually know in my partner, his friend just lost his dad on Saturday. Now he probably can't have a funeral for him. That is pretty interesting. I mean, this universal theme is playing out in everyone's lives in such unique and contrasting ways. So funeral, okay, that's one hook. Doctor, maybe you're a doctor. I know my GP at the moment is keeping a record of how this is affecting her, and I can't even imagine how stressful her job must be right now, because she sees such a large number of sick and elderly patients, and that's a huge and significant risk. Suddenly these jobs that were sort of safe in many ways are very, very stressful and not so safe. What if you're a waitress or you've been working in hospitality all your life and worked in 5-star restaurants? I know a lot of people in hospitality in Melbourne, a lot of my friends, because I used to waitress all the time. Well, suddenly cafes, bars, everything's shut down. And it looks like the industry that's going to pop up now to replace that is going to be cleaning. So all of those people who have been working in hospitality are now, if they want to get work, they'll probably be cleaning trams and doing all the special cleaning that we're now going to need to do of buildings, so that we can meet and gather. So that's really interesting. Some more. Perhaps you were on your way to Antarctica. I saw a story on Facebook, a couple that can't get back from Antarctica. I think Antarctica is the only continent not affected by the pandemic, but it is affected because they can't get back now. They can't get flights. That's a very specific and unusual and unique hook to this story. Another example, which I know I'm allowed to share, because one of my students who did my memoir writing course, her memoir covers a bit about her family upbringing and different aspects. But one of the aspects in that was that her mum was a bit of a hoarder because she always was preparing for the end of the world. Well, now that is more significant than ever, because we're seeing stories of all these people, panic buying and stockpiling, and maybe these hoarders were right. Like it poses a unique new question. So that's definitely a really interesting hook that's going to engage a lot of people, because it's a universal thing that we're all going through. And yeah, another one of my students, her memoir is about traveling and living internationally, even though she came from a family where that was seen as quite extravagant, and no one in her immediate family could understand why she would want to buy a house abroad, live abroad, so far from everyone, make things so difficult and complicated for each other. Well, now that whole story, that whole memoir has a completely new context in light of what's happened, because we're seeing that we won't be able to travel for the near future. And I'm even considering how this is going to change travel, global travel, international travel, forever. It's not going to be as easy. It might come back to being easy, but I don't think we're ever going to see air travel the same way again. So they're just some examples of how you can tie this universal theme into your own unique hook of how you're experiencing this story, and some things that you can write about. Okay, so moving on to some questions and some prompts for essays, blogs, article ideas. So these will be really helpful for you if you are trying to build your platform, get some things published. Even if you're not wanting to build your platform or publish a memoir, I'm loving reading people's Facebook posts from across the world, people's blogs. Carolyn has been keeping like a little blog post numbering each day of the lockdown in her specific village in the UK. And I just find it so fascinating, how you're experiencing all across the world. It's so different, but, just the domestic changes to our lives. So here's some ideas, and I'm sorry that you can't see my screen. I will find a way to share these slides with you. So here's some questions and prompts for essays, blogs, and articles that you could write about how you're experiencing this, and for some memoir, blogs, and articles. First of all, what is unique about your or your community's specific experience of this pandemic? So, for example, I was having this conversation with a friend. Perhaps you're a single parent. That's actually kind of good. I mean, it's awful because you'll probably be homeschooling or at home with your child quite a lot. But imagine if you're trying to negotiate social distancing and hygiene and all of that with a partner or an ex-partner that you were in the process of separating from. That would be complicated. Another one, polyamory. Oh my God, how many new weird subtopics in that are there to consider now? a friend posted on Twitter the other day that it's really made things super complicated there. Perhaps it's totally transformed your job. I mean, I touched on this before with, hospitality industry and how that's all affected, but I find it really interesting that we are finally waking up to how valuable and important cleaners, teachers, nurses, healthcare workers are in the community. So how has it uniquely affected your life or your community specifically? So how, whether that's transportation, whether that's the daily life that you're now having to completely change. So that's one prompt. The second one I have for you is, how has this changed or made me completely reconsider significant aspects of my daily life and life experiences, and what might I never do again? So, for example, I mentioned travel. I don't know when we're going to go back to normal with air travel, with all of this. I think it's really, really, really woken us up to what necessary travel is. I mean, overnight, things are switched to Zoom. Networking conferences that, university professors were going to are now just as a live Zoom call. I mean, the positive effect that that's going to have on the environment's excellent, but it's really going to change how people do their jobs now. So that's 2 prompts. Another one that's really helpful for you with your memoir is, what have you done to handle this? So I find it really interesting what people are panic buying. What have you panic bought? I must confess, I panic bought a book last week because I suddenly started worrying that the electricity grid wouldn't be able to handle everyone working from home and that we'd lose power. So I didn't want to have nothing to read. Other people are panic buying art and craft supplies for their kids because they're like, is this going to be a month? Is this going to be 3 months that we're at home? Has it affected how you behave? Did you wait until the last minute? If you didn't panic buy, what helped? What contributed to that decision for you? Perhaps you're someone who buys things in bulk anyway. That's a good thing. Another prompt that you could ask yourself is, what has most surprised you about all of this? I really like this one. Have you had any strange benefits from this experience? For example, I mentioned that our street has put together a WhatsApp group, overnight. We all know each other now. And I just think that's really, really great. We've got such a strong community and it's all just happened in a week. So that's one benefit. I was also thinking of health benefits for people who now can't go and access their vices, such as cigarettes, or perhaps they can't go out and panic buy alcohol. And, maybe that's affecting your health in a positive way. Perhaps you'll save some money. I know everyone's stressing out about the economic impact of all of this, but how is this actually going to benefit you economically? I mean, you won't be spending money on transportation. There's just some things to think about, reframing it in your own head. And this is why I was talking about memoir as a psychotherapeutic tool. That can be a really helpful way to reframe it, even perhaps just in your journal if you don't want to write about it for publication. Is what has surprised you? How have people really impressed you in this situation? Who do you now see in a different light? How's it changed your relationships? Has it strengthened them? Do you have a new appreciation of certain people in your community? I mean, I'm so impressed by my neighbours, how they've stepped up with this. And I've had some conversations with my neighbours that I never ever would have had before this happened. And it's this it's Marlene saying my screen is frozen. Okay, I hope it's working. Awesome, great, thanks everyone. Okay, it's good to see all your comments. So I'm actually talking to humans. Okay, so that's some prompts. Yeah, and just reframing it in that way of, you know, what great things has this shown you about people. You know, this is really I'm really impressed by some people that, you know, I never really had much to do with before, and just seeing how they've stepped up and gotten over their egos and you know, their everyday fears to really think of the community has really impressed me. And again, like I said before, like I'm reconsidering people like supermarket workers, you know, nurses, doctors. I mean, I always appreciated them, but people like cleaners, you know, I mean, it's just it's a life or death job now. It's changed my view of all of that stuff. Okay, so moving on from those questions and prompts, and I've got a lot more prompts on my blog if you wanted to take a look, if you feel a bit stuck or you want some someone else's ideas for prompts. I'll share those resources at the end of the presentation. So moving on to personal stories and where to send them. So if you are wanting to get published, if you're wanting to use this very unique time to build your platform, share some stories, get some things published. A lot of people have been asking me about memoir, saying, is this a good time to pitch? It feels like a really bad time to pitch. You know, the online world is everything right now. We are all consuming more content than ever. And I also think we're all consuming more personal stories right now because, I mean, personally, I can't even focus on anything fiction-wise. I tried to watch Netflix on Saturday night, Babylon Berlin, which I love, and I just couldn't even focus because what's happening in the world right now is too interesting. So, personal stories and where to send them. First of all, if you have a blog, I recommend sharing on your blog. One of my students, Carolyn, started, as I mentioned, sharing her experience of lockdown in her part of the UK on her blog. And that's really, really interesting. And that's also really good to share on your blog because that'll be mostly your friends and family across the world at first who are seeing that. And that's really going to help you all to stay connected. So that's a first idea, is your blog. Second idea is somewhere like Medium. So Medium is a free online platform, and I don't think they pay for articles, but things can get shared very, very widely on there. And you basically upload it. So there's no middleman of editor. You know, you don't have to wait for approval. You don't have to pitch something and then wait for all of that. So the benefit of Medium is you can get it up quickly. It can be shared widely. It doesn't pay, but, you know, things do. I don't want to use the VIRAL word, but Medium's a really good one. I saw a piece on Medium the other day. Gosh, I can't remember what it was about. I think it was about the arts sector. Anyway, moving on. Guardian, first-person stories. Someone in my Facebook group asked this the other day if newspapers are publishing personal stories. So again, it's all about coming back to the hook. What's your unique hook? What's your angle on this? How does it tie in with your job or your place in the community or your something that you do that relates to a wide amount of people? Huffington Post, again, that's another good outlet. The third place that you can start sending your stories is community-specific online spaces. So what I mean by this is, for example, when I say community, I mean, so let's say you are in a whole heap of, you're in a single mothers group, for example, and you've had to come up with 15 ways to keep your child entertained, you know, every day, and you've got this really unique way of handling that. Perhaps you could share a blog post in there for them. Other areas are like, you know, places. Think about online spaces that will be thinking about and considering the same elements that you're considering. So, you know, finding new strategies to deal with. Okay, I'm not very good at thinking on the fly, but finding new ways to, okay, so working from home, let's say you're in a group that's industry specific, but you're all suddenly having to work from home. You know, you could write a piece about how you quickly set up your home office, the best things that you've done to maximize that space, things that you're doing to stay productive even though you're home with your kids and your family, and it's hard to focus. I'm not giving you very strong examples, but basically sharing in community specific online spaces is really good because that's a willing audience, they're a captive audience, they have the same problems as you, they want to solve the same problems that you're thinking about, and they're considering the same topics. And of course, newspapers and online outlets. And I don't know, I mean, yeah, we might not be able to go out to shops right now to buy books, even though I know a lot of my local booksellers are doing home delivery, but it hasn't affected the online publishing world. Like, this has all been online content forever. So, and I've seen lots of call outs on Twitter in the last couple of weeks, particularly from all different countries, asking for specific personal examples of how this has affected specific industries or people. Okay, and just lastly, I have a resource for you if you want to know some more places, and that's my blog post, which is called 6 Places to Pitch a Memoir Essay. Okay, now to mindfully building platform. So this is a great time to be building your platform. I know so many writers balk at the word platform, you hate it. It's that whole thing of you get rejected if you don't have a big enough platform when you're pitching your memoir. It's just, it feels fake, it feels superficial, but you know, I just think of platform as connection. It's connection and community. And, you know, we are in such a unique position in this pandemic that we have the internet. You know, we have so many online spaces. We have social media to connect. I mean, I'm doing a live broadcast right now across the world just from my computer. I mean, that's incredibly important. And I also think that, you know, this is just where the relationships are. Like, this is how we're going to get our community and our relationships now. It's all going to be online. So you need to stop thinking about that word platform negatively and start considering it as community. So platform is just community and your network. We are all online right now, so this is a really unique opportunity to mindfully build your platform. So let go of the fear of connection and let go of that feeling that your story is insignificant, because right now everyone's story is significant. Okay, so my first action steps for you are to choose one platform. So choose Twitter or Facebook or Instagram and focus on that. So let's say you've chosen Instagram as the platform that you're going to focus on building. I like Instagram because you can just focus on beautiful photos and it's very visual and it's very soothing if you just follow lots of book accounts and French accounts like I do. I find Twitter a little bit harrowing, but Twitter's good for getting really quick news, and I think witty people can succeed on Twitter a lot more. Or Facebook, perhaps you want to build your Facebook author page. So choose one and come up with a theme or focus. So by that I mean, let's say you're going to post something for the next 10 days about what you're doing, what you're cooking with what you've got left in the pantry. That's one example. Or you could come up with a really nice mindful self-help or self-care sort of challenge for your friends and community to stay positive. I saw a friend on Instagram recently, or this morning, posted, you know, she shared her favourite cheer up photos in her camera roll because everyone needs a reason to smile right now. Perhaps you could curate a collection of the best memes about the pandemic. Perhaps you could come up with a reading list and share a different review each day of a different book. It's just about coming up with a theme or a focus and posting regularly. And that way people have a reason to check in with you, people have a reason to connect. And if you come up with a theme or a focus, it's a much easier, simpler way to build a community in these areas, because if people just see, you know, one day you're posting about your dog, the next day you're complaining about President Trump, the next day, you know, you're giving I don't know, something completely unrelated, people get confused. So try to stick to a theme or a topic, and keep it positive. Right now, we need positivity more than ever. Okay. Or something strange, perhaps like strange things I've learnt today, or, you know, weird benefits to lockdown today. You know, like there's so many, go back to the hook that I talked about, and try and come up with a theme or a focus that's related to that. And your friends and family and your community are really going to appreciate this, because we all want to know how everyone's going. Like, I appreciate it when I see my writer friends sharing how this is uniquely affecting them. It's not, you've got to get over that fear of sharing and connecting and being vulnerable, because we're all in the same boat right now. Okay, yeah, interact, ask for help, and share your story. So perhaps, and this is also a positive thing to do. You know, perhaps you are having trouble. This is why the internet is just everything right now. I saw an incredible Facebook community that's just gone wild in the last 2 days, and it's all recipes for cooking with just, you know, those weird things that we all have in our pantry when everything else has run out, and, you know, even how to make a really interesting pasta if you've got no sauce, and that sort of thing. So you could ask for help. You could say, hey, okay, day 9 of lockdown, I'm down to a container of lentils. What can I do? And then people can share their advice. And that's how you build community, and that's how we can all connect. So I think keep it positive, try and stick to a theme, post regularly, and just stick to one platform if that keeps it easier for you. I like nature posts as well. I think at the moment, more than ever, we're craving nature. I think a lot of people aren't able to go and get their nature dose. You could share a funny photo of, I'll stop coming up with really corny ideas, but you get the picture. Think of a theme, think of like a particular challenge and how you can roll that out for, you know, the next 10, 20, 30 days, and just post something every day and connect with everyone and reply, and keep it positive. Okay, so I'm getting close to the end. Lastly, and this is for those of you who aren't perhaps all about getting published, this is just the importance of keeping a diary. So whether or not you want to be published or not, whether or not you want to build your platform, get some essays and articles published, I think right now is such a good time to keep a diary. I know I post on journaling and keeping a diary all the time, but I think it is so important right now. I just shared some resources, a free PDF that I made last night for little kids, to stay positive and start a journaling practice if they're being confined to the house. But for adults, I think it's really, really important. It helps us to reflect on the changes, process the changes every day. And also it's a really, really, really precious historical tool, because this is a really significant time in history. And I just think, you know, we're going to look back on this time and want to see what changed and how, and then how that played out. So it's also really, really good for you. So some ideas on keeping a diary. You could keep an online diary if you want to connect with your friends and family like that. I know one of the writers in my group, I can't see who's watching, but she's been posting, you know, what she's been doing every day in Spain to stay healthy and happy during all of this with her kids. So you could keep it online. It could also be a paper diary. One thing I do want to say though, if you keep a paper diary, because it's been a bit of a nightmare going through my dad's diaries, always write the location that you're in. So because if you think about future historians or future readers or researchers, that is very, very important information, where you were when you went through certain things. So try to get in the habit of writing the date and the location on every journal post, or sorry, entry. You could also keep a diary by sending an email every day to a loved one. So this is a really nice way to stay connected and to just really practice your writing skills as well. I find that it's a really good exercise to find your writing voice. I like how you write in an email to someone that you're comfortable with is a really good way to find your writing voice as well. And be consistent. And really, if you're looking for, what to focus on, if you're thinking, wow, life's really boring in lockdown. I don't know who would be thinking that, but because life is not boring right now. But I'm just trying to think of what your objections might be to this. You could focus on what has changed from day to day, for example, in your routine. So these are in some of the prompts that I put in my kids' journaling prompts, are stuff like, how do your mornings look different now to how they were a month ago? What about lunchtime? What about the afternoon? What about the evening? How are you feeling? What's making you feel good? Are you, are there any unexpected benefits to this? Which of your relationships have become stronger? What are some new things that you're considering? What are some new things that you're doing? And also something really important to record from a historical perspective is, what law changed today, or what information did we get from the government or the health department today? Because that's actually going to really be very, very valuable historically when you go back and reflect on how things played out in your personal life. So again, tying back the universal into the personal. So, I'm reflecting on how the government locked down laws in Victoria. I think school is closing tomorrow. How's that going to affect me? Well, it's not going to affect me personally because I don't have kids in school, but I'm noticing a heightened anxiety in my friends who have kids because they're like, I don't know how to homeschool, what do I do? So I'm trying to come up with resources for them. That's not like a huge example, but yeah, just try to reflect on, try to think of it. If you're, looking for prompts, try to think of how the sort of information that future historians or researchers would connect to your personal story. So location is really important because they'll be able to look at the data and see, this is how it played out in Melbourne, for example, where I live, and then tying that into a personal story of how that affected my day-to-day life is really, really interesting. So there's just some ideas for keeping a journal in this time. And again, I think it's really, really important for self-care right now. Like, there's a lot of anxiety, and journaling is just such a beneficial tool to slow down your thoughts and process what's happening and to reframe things. I put some posts on my Instagram last night about 3 questions you can ask yourself before you go to sleep each night and write about in your journal. You could even ask if you're living with someone, you could each ask each other at night, and it's just a nice way to reframe your day and feel good. So that's keeping a diary. I think we're coming to the end. So I thought I'd open it up for, just to finish off, if anyone's got any questions. I've got a couple of questions here that people posted earlier, but I might just wait and see if anyone's got any questions in the comments about, writing your memoir, pitching your essays, anything right now. I'm happy to answer them. And I'll also answer the ones that were actually posted in the Facebook group. Okay, no one's typing anything that I can see. So I'll just go through. Oh, yay. Lainey's asking a question. Regarding essays, I'm unsure about diving into a blog or to use Medium, as it can then preclude the content from being published elsewhere. Any more thoughts on that? Okay. Diving into a blog or to use Medium. I see what you mean. Okay. Yeah. I think, so Medium and your own personal blog have the same benefits because, so what Lainey's asking, if anyone's hasn't seen that question, is whether or not she should do an essay for her personal blog or to share it or publish it on Medium. Hoping did I get that right, Lainey? Hope so. My thoughts are Medium has a much wider audience already. So if you can figure out how to, how to tag it all appropriately, create your account so that people can find you and clap for you, which is, I think, how it works. I think it's going to have probably a lot bigger reach if you don't already have an established audience in your own blog, which I don't think you do, Lainey? I didn't even think that you had a blog yet. Whereas if you do have a blog already, with an audience that regularly tunes in, you could do that. But it really depends on your goals. So I actually think for you, Lainey, Medium might be better. And, you can do both. You could write, and this is the other thing that I wanted to say to all of you. One idea can become, 5 or 6 different stories. There's so many angles to all of this. So, Lainey, you could write a longer piece for Medium. And then I'm not sure right now, but I think at the bottom of, people can follow you. Yeah. So I sort of think Medium might be better for you right now because you don't have an established audience on your blog. But then you could also start your blog. So, just start much smaller pieces on your blog in the day-to-day way. So I hope that helps. What I'd say is consider what your goals are. And I think right now you're wanting to get you're trying to build your clips, which is building your articles or essays that you can then reference when you're doing your book proposal and pitching your book. And I think something in Medium, because also with Medium, I might be wrong, but I think you can track how many times it's been shared, and you can track all of that. And that's always going to be good in your proposal. The other thing is, if you put it on Medium, you can also share it with all your friends who would follow your blog anyway and get them to share it, and that's going to boost how many people see it. And share it in all your writing networks, in the binders that I know you're in, and then we can all support you by clapping and reading it, and then you can keep those statistics for when you're pitching your book. So that's my answer. I think for you, Lainey, specifically, I think Medium right now, but also maybe think about starting your blog and posting on there regularly. I hope that answers your question. I know I've often thought about that as well. I used to, because I really only do my own blog now, but that's because I don't, I've had a lot published in the past, and it's all about the audience. Like, my audience reads my blog because they're interested in memoir. But if my goal was to pitch a book and to get a book published, I'd be wanting to get as many clips in as many wide and far-reaching places as possible, which is why I'm saying you guys should really use this time to build your platform and pitch some essays and articles. I think BuzzFeed is also another good one. I think I mentioned that in the blog post that I referenced. I'm so sorry that you can't see my slides because I had a whole heap of links to show you too. So I'll just wait. If anyone else has got any more questions, I'm happy to answer them, but I'll just answer a couple that were in my group. One of them, I'm pretty sure I've answered it now. Is it a good time to pitch? Absolutely. Places are looking for content. I've seen call outs on Twitter from different editors. Publications aren't shutting down. They're probably the only industry that can just quickly work from home, and probably already do. Like, most of the editors I know already worked from home. So definitely a good time to pitch. The other question that I saw was, how long should your article or your essay be? As a guideline, I mean, longer things are good at the moment too because we're consuming more content, but as a guideline, I like to say 1,200 words. That's sort of a standard placeable essay or article length. Yeah. And another one someone was asking me was, how do you pitch? Always by email. Don't send attachments. Try and find editors' details on either Twitter or LinkedIn or in your Facebook groups. If you're in any writing or editing Facebook groups, you can just do a little search under the publication, and often, you know, someone might have posted recently who's taking pictures in certain areas, but Twitter's a really great one for current emails. And another question which isn't quite as relevant to this workshop, but someone was asking if she should be editing her memoir now, because the whole experience of this pandemic has changed her perspective on her story. I think if this has made you dramatically reconsider, you know, the beginning or the end of your memoir, definitely go in and work on it if you haven't already sent it out on proposal. But don't use this as an excuse to take another 10 years to finish it. That's a very weird, quick answer to that question. But the other thing I would say is, don't get caught up finessing a chapter. You know, this is, writing, when you finish your memoir, you need to set it aside so that you can go back and look at it objectively. And you can't get that objective point of view if you're constantly tinkering with one chapter or another. You need a nice break away from it before you go back. I think I've answered everyone's questions. Has anyone else got any more questions? Oh, some comments I didn't see. If you use a blog medium, you can't send the essay. Oh, right. Yeah, Lainey, I don't think so. So Lainey's asking, yeah, you can't send it to be published elsewhere. That's true, but you know, I've seen widely published authors send stuff to Medium. I think the benefit is that it's quick. You know, you can get things up there very quickly. Yeah, it might not have the kudos of, say, I don't know, long reads or narratively, but you can get something up quickly. So there's the benefits there. I guess it's about weighing up the benefits and the pitfalls of waiting a bit longer and going through the whole pitching and waiting process versus just getting something up relatively quickly. But I sort of think for you, Lainey, it would be better to just get some more stuff published, and then when you are pitching to places like Narratively and Long Reads, or I can't remember the other one that you wanted to pitch that you mentioned, you can then reference, the editors can very quickly see your other clips, like your Medium clip. But try and come up with, don't get stuck with thinking that you've only got one essay idea. Like I mentioned, and you can go back to those prompts that I said before, you know, one aspect of this pandemic for you could be 5 or 6 essays or articles or blog posts. So there's so many stories that are just, you know, fascinating right now. So I hope that helps you. It's, yeah. Just see if anyone's, oh, thanks, Nancy. I'm glad, I'm glad it's been beneficial. I'm really annoyed that you haven't seen my PowerPoint slides, because I had really cute pictures of my cat on the slides. So just to sum up, and I'll leave it, if I see any more questions, I'm happy to answer them too. To sum up, we covered today why memoir matters now more than ever. Now, I hope that I've impressed that upon you. Your personal story is really, really relevant and really, really necessary, and we all want to read it right now, how you're experiencing this. We also covered universal themes, which are crucial to to writing a memoir, and bang, we've all just been given a universal theme here. We also covered the hook, and we all have a unique hook with this right now, because this pandemic is affecting us all in incredibly unique, specific, detailed, unprecedented, wish I could think of another word for that, ways. I also covered some questions that you can use to prompt your essays and articles, or even your diary entries. Some essays and articles and where you can send them. And I also covered strategies for building your platform mindfully during this time and why I think that's so important. And just lastly, keeping a record and keeping a diary. Whether or not you do want to publish a memoir, I just think it's so health and mental health and emotional health and physical health are all benefited by keeping a diary in this really interesting time that we're living in. So, and then I answered some questions. So I really hope this has been helpful to you. The replay will be up. If you missed any of it, you can go back to the beginning. And I'm actually thinking of considering just recording the slideshow separately, because I don't want you all to miss out on seeing those cute cat pictures. Hope you're all well, and stay positive and stay productive, and please write your memoir. See ya.